Hello and welcome to day 4 of the Better Math Scores Challenge. And if you are still with me, thank you. My name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher, and you have made it to day 4, which is amazing. So give yourself a pat on the back because I have done challenges and tapped out sometimes at day 3. So if you're still with me, but if you're catching them on the replay, that's okay. Welcome. Day 4 is basically what everybody asks me about. You know what that is? Math strategies. Do you have a strategy for teaching this? Do you have a strategy for teaching that? So today we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, all things math strategies. So let's dive right in. I'm going to do a little recap for those who are just tuning in and just finding out about the challenge. So we have prizes. The person with the most responses, comments on the post will win a 1-year subscription to the Math Intervention Academy. The second person will get access to fraction strategies for struggling learners. It's my course. And the third one will be 3 digital products from my store. Isn't that great? So those are my thank you to you, to let you know, thank you for actually being a part of this challenge, even if you're watching on a replay or you have fallen behind, because guess what? Life happens every day, and I get it. So let me go and hop on over to the workbook. So I got my Math Intervention Academy sweatshirt on. So day 3 was about learning progressions. Let me zoom in a little. It was about learning progressions. That was day 3. And that was great because I have one Fran, who is part of the Math Intervention Academy. She said she had an aha moment, that saying that, she realized it was okay for her to spend extra time on place value because it was one of the major things in her curriculum. So that was great. So day 4 is all about math strategies, and I had 2 questions for you all to answer. It was prompts. Find 2 math strategies for one major and minor theme at your grade level. So you were supposed to choose 2 major and minor, and if you did day 2's daily tasks, you would have found that you already had the major and minor themes there, and you just chose 2, one for your major and one for your minor. And I found a little typo in my little thing. This was supposed to say concepts. So let me edit that. I just found that today. So what math strategies would you use to teach these concepts to Tier 1 and Tier 2 students? And I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between strategies for tier 1 kids and strategies for tier 2 students. So let me go to my blog post. So this is a blog post I wrote a while back. It's called, well, the name of it is Math Strategies, Conceptual Understanding versus Algorithms. Now, one of the issues that I see when teachers choose math strategies, a lot of them are not, a lot of teachers don't take into account of where are the students in the learning progression for the actual concept. And if you looked at day 3, which was learning progressions, and we talked about, Graham Fletcher's learning progressions. If you know where your students are in that learning progression, finding a strategy that meets the need of all the students will be easier, because you know whether either, if first of all, if the student expectation is asking you to teach it at the conceptual level, or are the students at the standard algorithm. So this is more so for upper elementary and secondary. So secondary more so because the curriculum assumes that the children are or have mastered the student expectation and have moved from the conceptual understanding, mastered it, and are now ready for this abstract thinking. Well, that's not the case. Not, and more often than not, a lot of students are still stuck in the learning progression at the conceptual level. So a lot of the students fail and don't pass because they cannot move from the conceptual. And I'm going, in this blog post, I gave an example. This was one of my students, and she was one of those students where I was supposed to be moving them, because the 5th grade curriculum in Texas, they are supposed to be able to add mixed numbers with unequal denominators. So you already know it has all the skills, 3, 4, 5 skills that need to be completed in order to master this task. Well, this student, bless her heart, she worked hard. She was at the conceptual level for converting mixed numbers to improper fractions, or fractions greater than one whole. So I had to meet her where she was. And what I was trying to do is transition her, because the student expectation expected her to already be at the abstract level, because improper fractions, mixed numbers, fractions greater than one whole, whatever you want to call them, are in the 4th grade curriculum. So 5th grade curriculum was assuming that those students had all of the previous knowledge to move through the continuum of the learning progression cycle for this actual concept. Well, she was not there. So you're probably saying, well, why does this matter? It matters because students, you can't move them that quickly. I don't care how much pressure you're under. It is, and I'm going to say this with all sincerity because I'm up against it. And I've always had to, figure out, who am I going to do the best for? Either am I going to please the adults in the room, or I'm going to do what I know is right for students. So when you're up against the standardized test, because this is the Better Math Scores Challenge, and your students are stuck at the conceptual level, and the students are supposed to be at the abstract level for a math concept, it is never a good idea to forego and say, oh, no, I'm going to push the student to the abstract. It's not going to work. It's going to backfire every time. So, say for instance, I need to go ahead and get them, and I'm take this student, and I need her to convert these fractions greater than one whole using the algorithm. I couldn't push her any further than where she was. So here's what I tell teachers all the time. It's January. You have to make a decision, and I'm looking at you. You have to make a decision on whether your students are going to be proficient students, they're going to pass out right on the test, or they're going to be growth students. They can't be both. And you have to be okay here and understand that some kids, they are so far behind, you cannot move them from the conceptual level to the abstract in 9 months. It does not happen. For some, depending on where they are and if they were proficient, because some kids are not true tier 2 kids. They have situations where they became a tier 2 student, and the circumstances that they were in led to them falling behind in work. However, when they had a stable environment and had good access to high quality instruction, the student went back to the tier 1 status. And I've seen that happen more often than not. So you have to really know your students, and I teach that in my Math Intervention Academy, is getting to know your students. So back to this Math Strategies blog. So this student was there. That's the first thing in choosing a strategy. Where are your students at in the learning progression of that actual concept? And if you didn't know what learning progressions are, go back to day 3 and watch the video and learn more about learning progressions. Now, this is a picture of a student that was in my 9th grade Algebra 1 intervention class. As you can see, we have fraction circles on the board. So he was like, Ms. Williams, can I use the fraction circles? Because we were practicing equivalent fractions because they were graphing the slope of the line. If you can see the picture, zooming in, you'll see new skill, graphing the slope of the line. Well, slope is not a decimal. It is in fraction form. It's a ratio. So one of the problems that they were having is that they couldn't simplify a fraction. So that's what he was working on. But here's the thing. I knew where he was. He was not at let's find the scale factor, divide it, and then simplify. No, he was at the conceptual level. And the conceptual level involved fraction wheels. And I was okay with that because it gives the kids a tool. What I tell teachers all the time is where the student is, at least when their memory falls apart, guess what? They can always draw it out. So be okay with choosing a strategy where the students are conceptually. That's why the name of this blog post is Conceptual Understanding versus the Algorithm, because the manipulatives are important. They're always important because the brain thinks in pictures. One of my colleagues reminded me of that. And it's a part of students' mathematical proficiency. They have to have a conceptual understanding first. Then there's that procedural fluency, which comes in hand. And I think I mentioned in one of the other videos is that normally when students have errors in fluency, there's an issue with the conceptual understanding. Always. I haven't seen where it was not. So when you're talking about choosing strategies, know where your students are in the learning progression. If you don't know what that learning progression looks like, what mastery looks like, create a diagram of where the vertical alignment starts and ends, and get with your colleagues to figure out what does it look like at every step of that vertical alignment, and how do they progress through the actual vertical alignment. And where are your students? Place them. Where are your kids? And be honest about where they are. Rome was not built in a day, and kids' gaps, they weren't there overnight, and you're not going to solve them overnight. But what you do is you chip away at it with good instructional practices, good tier 2 instructional strategies. Also, choosing a strategy that you can chunk for your tier 2 kids. A lot of teachers teach to their tier 1 kids, and that's how your tier 2 kids get left behind. For example, sometimes teachers will choose a strategy where only the high kids can use it. And then when you try to use it in small group, you can't, because it's not a strategy that you can break down for your tier 2 kids. Make sure that you are using a strategy that can be chunked or scaffolded in small group for your other population of students, those tier 2, tier 3 kids, special ed, ELLs, dyslexia, dyscalculia. All of those students need to have it chunked and scaffolded. And that's the foundation of choosing a strategy that meets the needs of all your learners. So that was day 4. And really think about these two. Let me see if I can bring that in. Really think about these two questions and how you would use these to teach them, because it's different. Tier 1 kids, you could probably give them that strategy and they gravitate to it like moths to a flame. But those tier 2 kids, you're going to have to chunk it, scaffold it, and break it down to where it's bite-sized, because they have deficits. And you're there to help them get over those deficits. Now, let me go to the challenge recap page. Oops, this is up. If you have missed any of the days, you can always go to the challenge recap page. Let me make it bigger. Ooh. Let me see. I'm trying to, I don't know why I went to that page. Let me pull it up. There it is. That's a better one. So you can always go here and learn more and catch up on the training. The trainings will be available until Monday morning. Day 4 will be here, and then I'll put day 5. All of them have the emails or the daily tasks attached to them. So you can definitely visit the recap page. Hopefully, you understand more after today about choosing strategies and why your strategies are important and how you teach those to your tier 1 or tier 2 kids. So, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 5, which is one of my faves, progress monitoring. Bye bye. Have a good evening.